how to install a light or an outlet. It's really all the same, no matter if it's on the wall or on the ceiling. I'm gonna do mine on the ceiling, but I'm gonna hook into that outlet that's over there. It's an insulated wall, so it's gonna be more difficult. I'm mounting my outlets in the ceiling because I want ceiling mounted outlets. All that's gonna do is make it easier for me to work and easier to show you what it's gonna look like. But if you're gonna mount them through the walls, then you're gonna have to run it up and down. If you have attic access and you're mounting like on the upper floor on a multi-level house, that's gonna make it so much easier. If it's a crawl space, you can actually get underneath the house and go under. This is how I'm gonna do it. I'm not an electrician. I'm just a DIYer. I have run several outlets myself. I've helped several people run outlets. But I'll probably do some things wrong and I'll probably do some things right. So there's my disclaimer. So if we look at this one, you see that the wire comes in this side. It does not come in that side. So this is the end of the run because there's only one wire. I chose this outlet because it is the end of the run. Other outlets have one wire coming in this way and then another going out. So it'll have two whites, two blacks, two grounds. This one is the end, so I'm gonna actually tap into the outlet and run my wire up. Now what that means is I'm gonna have to install a hole here and push my wire up the wall, all the way up. This may be a little unorthodox, but that was the nails. So I just put my Sawzall in there and chopped those nails loose and then pulled the whole box out. That's just gonna make my life so much easier. So the way these work, these new work boxes have these nails pre-stuck in there. And then you just drive them in the stud. So the stud is right there. The old work boxes have these nice little flip up tabs. So as you put this in there and you screw this in, by rotating the screw, it'll turn up until it hits this flat right here. So then it'll squeeze in on the drywall. And the nice thing about these is if you ever want to do any work later, you can pull the box out and have free access like that. So here's where we are. I went to go up, I had a fire break right there. So I opened this inspection panel and drilled a hole straight down right there. I tried to drill up, it just wasn't working. So I had to resort to opening a new hole here, drilling down. I've got my fish tape run up and it stuck out up top. Now I'm going to take my spool of wire and tape it onto the fish tape, pull it down into this inspection hole, and then from there I should be able to push it down into the next hole. Here we are up top. I've got it taped. I like to start on what I'm about to pull through first, so that would be this. I got a couple wraps on that, and then I've run it down, starting from here going down, so it works as I'm pulling through and I'm not going against it. Just trying to make that nice and flat, and just try to lay this wire as flat as I can up against everything so it's the smallest package to send through as possible. Now I've got it in. I've got to make sure that I push this up so I'm not just pulling down on this, because I will rip it right off. And there we go. I've got it stuck out here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll pull this tape off. All right, so you see it running straight down here. It's going through the fire break and it's down here. First thing I need to do is go ahead and I'll strip this outer sheath, this yellow, will be stripped back about as far as that one because I don't need it. And then I'll strip a little bit on the ends and then I'll hook it up on the outlet and I'll show you that. Once you strip the outer insulation, you'll have this paper. You don't need that. Just take that and throw that away. And there's actually two pieces. Just throw them both away. So here's how the box gets prepped. Just my OCD, I like the writing to be up. So I'm going to choose that is the top. And stick a screwdriver in. And just break two of these. There's one. There's two. My new wire will go in this hole. Old wire will go in that hole. Next, I've got the box in. They oversized this a little bit, so it's just kind of squeezed in there. The top fits really well. Now I've got to strip these two hot neutral wires. So on your outlet, this is the old outlet that I had, on your outlet or your switch or whatever you're installing, there's a strip gauge right here that shows how much wire you need to strip. You can put this up to that if you're unsure how much to strip. About right there. And then I'll take and I'll roll that end over. The pliers on the ends of these wire strippers really help. This yellow side is the hot. This white side is the neutral. And you also have the grounds. So neutral is a redundant ground. So if you go look in your box, you'll see on most of them that neutral and ground actually go to the exact same spot. So they want this one to be neutral. That is obviously ground. This one over here is hot. These screws, you can use a flat blade, you can use a Phillips, or you can use one of these handy little things. This is a Milwaukee tool. It's got a built-in wire stripper. I don't generally use it. I mean, it works in a pinch, but I generally have other stuff with me, and this literally plugs in right there and works perfectly. So the first thing I do is I'll back all these out. Not too much, because these are actually captive screws. They're not supposed to leave. And I'll just make sure that they're backed out until they're difficult. And you want to make sure that the wire loops in and goes this way around. So the hooks need to go that way. So as you tighten, it closes that loop up, not opens it. So it sits like that. You put it in. And then as I'm tightening this, it should squeeze more. And there's a notch right here that this wire needs to sit up against, so it doesn't go too far either way. Now I'll take this black and just try to, again, OCD nature, just try to fish it through so it actually makes sense and doesn't get tangled up in there. And I always like to put a little bit of outward pressure on it. That's what I'm doing with my finger there, is actually pulling the outlet away just to keep that wire tight so it doesn't spit out towards the front. So you might be asking yourself, we've got one screw for the ground. What about this extra ground? Well, it's a ground. Not that it's not important. It's very important. But this is typically all it needs, is just wrap around. And then I'll take my pliers, a little bit of squeeze like that, just so it's not gonna rip your finger off, or whoever's next in this box. Line this up and shove all this wire back in the box. Like I told you earlier, this hole was way overcut height-wise. The top fits good, the bottom just literally sucked in as I was pushing that in. So I'm gonna see if I can't sink me a screw in. Now the bottom is sunk in. Sometimes that's the thing to do. I noticed it because I had put a bend in this and I was pushing my outlet in just like that, and the box literally just sunk in. And there's this much slop so that if your box is crooked or anything, you can fix it. If your box is pretty well straight, then just put these in the middle. Now for the outlet cover. That's actually ready for power if the other side was done. This is the wire that I just ran, and it's going to this metal box. So I've got to punch out this side and install this thing. I don't even know what it's called. Just hit that with a hammer and a screwdriver, punch that out, stick that in so it's no rough edges, run the wire in, and then I've got it roughed in. All these metal boxes are the same, whether it's the square or the rectangular or whatever. Once you hit that with a hammer, it's gonna hang. And the thing that I found, work it back and forth a few times and then you get a little piece. These install pretty easy. They come with this nut on this side. So just take the nut off, stick it in, and tighten the nut up. They make these fancy, I'll put it there so you can see it. These fancy pliers specifically for this. They're not a requirement, but they do make it easier. And you just go and you tighten it up. And there it is. It's roughed in, it's going through that. I just gotta snug these down, but it's in and it's hanging. If you don't have an outlet tester, I highly suggest you buy one. This is a nicer one that's got a button for the actual GFCI test. This will tell you, you can read up here on the top. It will tell you whether it's good or bad. This is correct. So I know the outlet is right. Here's my older one. This one, these two lights on means it is proper. So this one's actually getting a little bit hard to read up there. So it might be destined for the trash. But yeah, so this one's like $5 or something when I bought it. The other one was like $8. So they're super, super, super cheap. And they make sure, especially if you're not sure, that you're doing it proper and you're safe. My next step is figuring out where I want all of these ceiling outlets. I've got the one figured out that you've already seen. New one there, new one there. The third will be going there. I'm gonna have you follow along for the third one. It's super simple, but I'm gonna show you just in case you have any questions. So because I'm in my garage, I'm using metal boxes. I prefer these. They're super easy to mount. They're super easy to work on. I can expand them later. But I'll be installing these. If you're working inside your house, you can use a plastic box. These are really nice because there's a piece raised right there, and I can actually put my ground screw there, so the entire box is grounded. So if I ever touch it or anything, this whole thing is grounded. I'm using some number 10 by 1 inch sheet metal screws. I just prefer that hex head. Makes it really easy with this hex driver. I've got a little extension on here so I'm not fighting inside the box. Find a spot where I want it, and I'll put it fairly close to this heating duct. Okay, that one's in, and my feeder wire will run from that direction over there where the live circuit is. I've got my other two back that way. So I'm actually going to start at the end of this and work my way up here. So the last thing I hook up will be the box that I ran earlier for my exit sign. These will actually all daisy chain in, just like the outlet in the wall. I've got both ends roughed in here. Now that they're in the box, let me go ahead and snug these down. Got that snug. Now I'm going to pull off the yellow insulation. It's the outer sheath. This little paper insulator, we'll remove it. And we'll get the wire strippers on the proper size. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my hooks in every one of these, except for the grounds. We'll do one ground. There we go. All right, since I'm using all four, I'll actually have to unscrew these upper two. They know you always use one pair, so that's what they give you. And like I said, a little bit of down pressure just to pull and make sure that the wires are all the way up in there. So the neutral and ground side is done. Now for the hot. There it is. I'm going to take and wrap this ground around that ground. There we go. So now with the wires folded and then the outlet shoved up, I can run it in with the screws the rest of the way. So the beauty of these boxes, the screw is in the face of the outlet. The face of the outlet screws into this. So the face of the outlet, all the metal on the outlet is grounded. The box is grounded. So now all of this is 100% grounded. If any hot wire touches it, it'll immediately throw the breaker. So I like these. Plus, if I'm working here in the shop and I have any metal outlets around me, and if I ever need to rid myself of any static electricity, all I gotta do is just touch it. And it's grounded, and it's gonna take it right out. That's usually for like working on a computer, changing a hard drive or something like that. But having a way to rid yourself of static electricity is always a good thing for those sensitive components. All right, outlet cover, and then it'll be done. My personal preference, a metal outlet cover. Another reason is it gets cold out here, it's unheated. So that way metal handles all these temperature fluctuations better. There's less to break. And if I hit it, it's not gonna crack like plastic. So that one is done. Now I just gotta hit the last one and power the circuit up. And the fruits of our labor are complete. So this is a perfectly good outlet, and I've got my exit sign over here. I have a completely unnecessary exit sign that is lit up all the time now. This exit sign actually has a battery backup, so it's even more unnecessary. But now, most importantly, I have my ceiling outlets. So I'm gonna verify the other two are good, and then I'm done. One more good, and that's a wrap. I got my 3 ceiling outlets added off the existing circuit. So this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And honestly, as stupid as it sounds, the exit sign pushed me over the limit. I got it, and I didn't want it to sit in a box. So it's now done. If you have any questions, just let me know. Remember, I'm not an expert. I've done this many times, but I do not have all the answers. So I will try to help, and hopefully if I can't answer, then I can ask some friends who are experts.